Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different just because there's still a little bit of a drought going on with Space Marine 2 in terms of its content. However, we did see recently that the Tech Marine, the update is coming slowly but surely. I believe, though, it's supposed to be here before GTA 6, so that's at least a positive. But we're going to continue to engage with the Warhammer community in a more broad spectrum, and today we're going to go over a book that I recently read and rather enjoyed. Now, this is going to be my first kind of video tackling books in general, other than just kind of going over all the ones that I read for the previous year. So if this is something you like, if you would like more information included in them, because I don't really want to give away spoilers, and I know sometimes that might be a little hard to do, but if you do recommend any changes, feel free to let me know down in the comments. I always appreciate it, as always. And also, thank you very much, guys, for a lot of that support on the last video. Honestly, to quote Meek Mill after a P. Diddy party, it made my whole week. Just whenever I was opening up my phone throughout the week and just seeing constant notifications going off, it was just a really cool feeling, and I truly do want to express my gratitude towards you all for that. But let's get right into it. The first book that we're going to be talking about today, in case you couldn't tell by the title card or the particular chapter skin that I'm rocking in Space Marine 2 here, we are going to be talking about the book Oaths of Damnation, which is a one-off Exorcist themed novel. So before we get too much into the book, I do just kind of want to give a very brief overview of who the Exorcists are, what makes them unique, and what kind of drew me to this book. So for starters, the Exorcists, they are a successor chapter that is very well known for their ability to counteract demons and the warp. Now, a lot of people initially thought because of this that they were heavily related to the Grey Knights, and at one point there was a little bit of a theory that they might be. However, within the book's Oath of Damnation, this has been changed, or rather retconned, to they are now a successor chapter of the Imperial Fist, and that is confirmed within this novel, which I believe is the first time. But again, so what makes the Exorcist unique is they are very adept at dealing with demons from the warp, and the way that they go about this is one of their very unique rituals in which their initiates become possessed by a demon for roughly 12 hours. It's a very short but brutal ritual that they undergo. They become a demon host for, again, 12 hours, and at that final 12th hour, if they're able to exorcise the demon with assistance from either an inquisitor or a librarian, they will go ahead and become a battle brother and finish up the remaining surgeries that would make them a full-fledged Space Marine. Now, this doesn't always happen. Sometimes it goes wrong, and they remain possessed. At this point, they become what's known as a broken one and are pretty much locked away to make sure that the demon inside them is still contained. And that is actually going to be the subject of the book rather, Oaths of Damnation. So, again, we're going to try to avoid spoilers here, but I do want to give just kind of a general overview of the plot. And so the book starts off with a very brief kind of prologue detailing an exorcist ship that does house some of these broken ones. There is someone from the Inquisition who recently arrives on the ship, and shortly after their arrival, there's essentially a prison break, I guess is the best way to explain it. One of the broken ones is loose on the ship, begins killing everyone aboard, and eventually finds its way to an escape pod before the ship can essentially self-destruct. Even though this is something that does go on within the Imperium, it is kind of alluded to that most people are not aware of this, and if they were, the Exorcist chapter would most likely face a lot of censorship or calls for outright heresy just due to willingly undergoing demonic possession. But anyways, back to the plot. So this broken one, it escapes onto a nearby planet, which just so happens it shares a very special bond with, which that is revealed to us later on in the book. And from there, we cut over to one of the Exorcist librarians, Torin Vey. He's going to be one of our main characters. He receives the update that a broken one has escaped and gotten loose and fled to a nearby planet in the system. And he is tasked with setting up a Hexbreaker unit, which is essentially kind of like an Exorcist strike team, to go in and specifically handle capturing and retrieving the broken one. So Torin Vey goes out, he recruits someone that he knows very well, and that is going to be Zaidu, also known as the Sin Slayer. The dude has quite a reputation for killing demons, not on par with, let's say, the Doom Slayer, but he's doing a very good job at angering the enemies of the Imperium, especially those of the demon kind. So Torin Vey, Zaidu, they set up, they head over to this planet, and they begin to make their search for the broken one and try to retrieve him. Now, as they land on the planet, they find that the Astra Militarum is currently engaged with heretic forces, and that does include, as well, some word bearers, which, honestly, one of the things that I really loved about this was I thought the word bearers were the perfect Heretic Astartes chapter to include in this, just because they also like to utilize the warp for creepy demon stuff. However, they utilize it on a completely different level compared to the Exorcist, and it was just very interesting to have a few snapshots to see how they would interact with each other. So anyways, the strike team, they land on the planet, they begin their search. They do try to help out the Astra Militarum as much as they can while making their way to try and find the broken one before the word bearers are able to. Because the word bearers, again, they like to do some demonic stuff here and there on the side. And their hope is they want to completely bring the demon to its true form into our reality. So along the way, we do get a little bit of a flashback that kind of goes through Zaidu, his exorcism ritual, which was actually overseen by Torin Vey. So there is that connection there. And it's revealed that the demon that they are hunting is the same one that he exorcised from himself back whenever he joined the Exorcist chapter. We also get to see some other rites as well, and we get a little bit of a look into how the different members within the Exorcist chapter are affected kind of post-exorcism. A lot of times there's still scars that are left over, or like they begin to take on demonic features from the specific demon that they were possessed by. And so it's just interesting to see how it affects them, and also what happens whenever they do successfully exorcise one of the demons by essentially losing a good chunk of their soul, and what connects them to humanity. And that's something that's often kind of expressed throughout the book, is you'll see characters know that they should feel a certain way during certain situations. However, because part of their soul is missing, they are not able to. Eventually, though, the Exorcist squad is able to locate the broken one. However, the word bearers have beat them to it. And of course, the word bearers are again looking to take the broken one, or as they refer to it as the blessed one, and try to bring it back into reality. A short fight does ensue. Even though the Exorcists ultimately do kind of defeat the word bearers in that little incident, they are still able to maintain control over the broken one or the blessed one. Just depends on which side of the aisle that you want to join on that particular issue. And from there, it becomes a race against the clock to prevent the word bearers from fully bringing the demon into our reality. Which, from there, we find out that, unfortunately, things get out of hand even for the word bearers themselves, and the demon is working on its own accord to bring itself into our plane of existence by opening up, essentially, a demonic portal on the planet. So, from there, we find out that the Hexbreakers, they don't really have a whole lot of options other than the fact that they know one of them is going to have to make a big sacrifice to contain the demon, which is essentially offering themselves to become the demonic host for it. Now, that role, I'm not gonna tell you who, But however, at the end of the day, the Exorcists, they are able to make that sacrifice. They have one of the hex breakers become a demon host, and they are able to contain the broken one. And unfortunately, they're not going to be able to exorcise it. That particular Marine will have to live out the remainder of his existence as a broken one. Now, overall, to me, one of the things that I liked about this book is it's purely a one-off. It's not something where you're going to have to read multiple books or anything like that. It's just a one-and-done deal. The other thing, too, is it's a very short and easy read. It's just below 400 pages. However, the chapters are broken up quite a bit, so it's something where if you need to take a break here and there, or maybe you don't have as much time as you would like to set aside for reading, you're certainly going to be able to just kind of pick it up whenever you need to, or you have a couple minutes, maybe read through a chapter or two, put it back down, and then come back to it later in the story. It's very easy to pick up and remember right where you left off, even if you have to take a couple days. Now, one of the things I would say is it does also feature a lot of combat, which for me is something that I really like. I like it when authors can do a really good job of kind of describing what a lot of these battles would look like, which I think, honestly, to me, I kind of find it as part of a talent whenever they're able to describe the chaos of battle just through words and have you feel like you're actually there seeing it. This book does do that very well. However, if you are someone who likes a good bit of lore throughout the book, or I guess to learn more backstory, you might find this one a little bit lacking. It definitely gives you enough to get you associated with the Exorcist and kind of what they're all about. Again, it does go over Zaidu, his particular exorcism ritual that he underwent, along with a couple of the other various rituals that they do along the way. Now, while I do think it is a fun book, I would say also, am I going to say it's an essential read or anything like that? No, but that's okay, because not every book has to be. Sometimes it's nice to pick up a book, even within the Warhammer franchise, where you know it's not going to have any big revelations, but it's just going to be a fun read, and that's what this book in particular does really well. So that's my thoughts on the book Oaths of Damnation. Personally, it made me fall in love with The Exorcist. I hope that we get to see more of them throughout the franchise. I do understand that they actually have had a pretty decent role within some of the Warhammer lore. Some of it, though, again, has been retconned just to help kind of differentiate them from the Grey Knights and continue to have the Grey Knights be something that feels completely unique to the Warhammer universe, just because the Exorcists, while they can be really hard to corrupt, they're not completely incorruptible, whereas the Grey Knights themselves, that's their bread and butter. But as always, thank you for watching. If this is a book that you've read, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know why. And as always, we will catch you next time.